USAID. A lifeline under risk since its founding in 1961, USAID has been the backbone of U.S. foreign humanitarian assistance. In 2023, it managed nearly $36 billion of the $72 billion the U.S. spent on foreign aid. With Trump's executive order to gut the agency and Elon Musk's aggressive downsizing, 10,000 employees are now facing layoffs, leaving only 300 staffers to manage crisis response. The abrupt halt of USAID operations is already causing food shortages in Africa, stalled disease treatments in Asia, and economic instability in Latin America. The closure is not just bureaucratic, it's a global humanitarian disaster. 2. Trump's America First meets Musk's efficiency obsession. Donald Trump has long criticized foreign aid as wasteful and driven by radical lunatics, while Musk has publicly called USAID a criminal organization. Their justification? Reducing federal spending and cutting deep state bureaucracy. However, USAID's budget accounts for less than 1% of U.S. federal spending. The cuts are ideological, not economic. Trump aims to dismantle globalist institutions, while Musk sees an opportunity to remodel governance through corporate-style efficiency, regardless of humanitarian consequences. 3. Weaponizing USAID's controversies to justify its demise. USAID has been accused of covert political operations, from supporting anti-Castro protests in Cuba, 2000s, to funding independent media in Russia, which Putin later branded as foreign agents. Critics argue it serves as a soft power tool for U.S. interests, rather than purely humanitarian purposes. While some accusations hold weight, closing the agency entirely punishes millions who rely on aid for survival rather than addressing accountability concerns. 4. A blow to global public health initiatives. USAID has been a major funder of HIV/AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis programs, especially in Africa. In 2023 alone, it provided over $6 billion in HIV treatment, impacting 12 million people. With operations frozen, 500,000 tons of food and $340 million worth of medicine are stuck in transit or storage. Countries like Nigeria, Kenya, and South Sudan, which depend on USAID to keep their public health infrastructure afloat, now face imminent medical crises. 5. The UN and global NGOs face a funding void. The U.S. contributes 42% of all UN-tracked humanitarian aid, much of which is funneled through USAID. Its closure disrupts projects led by World Food Program, UNICEF, and WHO. Trump's broader war on international organizations, including pulling out of the Paris Agreement, WHO, and UN human rights bodies, is systematically weakening global governance. As USAID crumbles, China and Russia are poised to fill the geopolitical vacuum with their own development initiatives. 6. Humanitarian backlash, legal challenges and protests. The American Federation of Government Employees and the Foreign Service Workers Association have sued the Trump administration, calling the cuts reckless and illegal. A U.S. judge has temporarily halted the agency's full dismantling until February 14th, but a long-term shutdown is still likely. Meanwhile, hundreds of USAID workers have protested outside the White House, warning of mass refugee crises and the collapse of emergency response systems in war zones like Sudan and Ukraine. 7. Economic fallout. Billions in trade and business at risk. USAID isn't just about aid, it boosts U.S. economic interests. The agency supports small businesses and trade initiatives in developing countries, fostering partnerships that later turn into markets for American companies. In 2023, USAID-backed programs generated $25 billion in bilateral trade agreements. Slashing these programs will hurt U.S. exports in agriculture, pharmaceuticals, and technology, ultimately costing thousands of American jobs. 8. Musk's ideological crusade, privatizing global aid. Elon Musk's involvement in USAID's closure is part of his broader vision to privatize essential services. Having already disrupted space exploration, SpaceX, transportation, Tesla, and communication, Starlink X, Musk is now eyeing government functions. His proposal? A privatized aid model controlled by corporate donors and AI-driven distribution. Critics argue this would shift humanitarian assistance from a needs-based approach to a profit-driven system, excluding vulnerable groups without commercial value. 9. A win for autocrats. Who benefits from USAID's demise? Governments that have long resented U.S. influence, Russia, China, and Iran, see USAID's shutdown as a strategic victory. Without American-backed democracy programs, regimes can tighten their grip on civil society, restrict press freedoms, and suppress opposition. Russia's crackdown on foreign-funded NGOs and China's expansion of its Belt and Road Initiative are clear indicators of how they plan to capitalize on USAID's absence. The real losers? Activists, independent journalists, and marginalized communities. 10. The bigger picture. Is this the end of U.S. global leadership? The dismantling of USAID signals a shift in America's global role. Once the largest humanitarian donor, the U.S. is now retreating from international commitments. The move echoes broader isolationist policies, reducing NATO support, withdrawing from the UN, and scaling down military aid to allies. While Trump and Musk argue for an America First approach, historians warn that abandoning global responsibilities could weaken U.S. influence, destabilize global markets, and invite new power struggles. Is this the moment America cedes its leadership to China? Time will tell.